Welcome back to Everything But the Lesson Plan. I am your host, Franchesca Thompson, and this week we are celebrating two powerful forces that shape our lives: teachers and mothers. As we honor Teacher Appreciation Week and prepare for Mother's Day, I am beyond proud to share a deeply personal episode with you. Today's guest is not only an incredible woman with rich and courageous stories, she also is my mother, Leslie Baker. We'll walk through her journey as a young Black girl growing up in the segregated South, navigating both the Jim Crow era and the historic shift into desegregated schools. She lived through two vastly different education systems, and through it all, it was her teachers who helped her find her voice, her strength, and her purpose. In this episode, you'll hear the vivid memories of a student whose life was forever impacted by educators who saw her worth even when society didn't. It's a story about resilience, dignity, and the undeniable power of a great teacher. So sit back, open your hearts, and join me in honoring the teachers who shaped her journey and the mother who continues to shape mine. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad you invited me.
Yes, you will be my first parent. I will have to get dad on here next, eventually. So this is a good time. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I always do this episode honoring teachers, is sharing who your favorite teacher is, and it's also Mother's Day. So this is perfect timing. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm 66 years old, married, and we had three children,
Mhm.
and I graduated from a technical college with a degree in dental hygiene.
And you were one of the first Black students to graduate from that program, right?
Yes, I was the first Black dental hygienist that graduated from that program.
Okay, and that career has taken you a long way.
Yes, it has.
So, Mom, can you take us back to your early years in school? What was it like growing up under the Jim Crow laws?
Well, under the Jim Crow laws, the schools in the Black community, they were at a disadvantage
Mm-hmm.
because the Jim Crow law, it states separate but equal, but that was not true
Mm.
because because of the fact that the Black schools received the books from the white schools. When they updated their books,
Mm-hmm.
they had better schools and equipment. And basically what the white schools no longer wanted, it was given to the Black schools. And you know what? I never knew that I was at a disadvantage
Mm-hmm.
until desegregation took place.
So you guys were receiving all the old stuff, but in your mind, it was just normal classroom material at that time.
Right, right.
Okay. Then desegregation happened. And so we're going to get to that a little later. But tell me a little bit more about what you were like as a student. I don't think you had kindergarten at that time. I think it was first through 12th grade. So what type of
Right,
student were you?
right. It was first through 12. And I was like a go getter student.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I strive for perfect attendance. I never liked to miss school. And I made good grades. And I came to school with my homework completed. And I also participated in the classroom discussions. And I was also inducted into the National Honor Society in high school. And I also made honor rolls.
Okay. I'm gonna post this chart that I use that talks about what type of student you are. And so you were the go-getter kind. You strive to be successful in school.
Right. And hated to miss school too. I just hated to miss school. I think because I always thought, oh, if I miss school, I miss something important. I don't like depend on other people to tell me what
Mhm.
happened in school, what homework was.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be in school.
in school all the time. So, was there one teacher in particular who really stood out to you when you were in school?
Well, there was actually two teachers
Okay.
that really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
One, while schools were segregated,
Mm-hmm.
and that was Miss Council.
Okay.
And Miss Council, she was the type teacher. She was very invested in her students in her classroom. Because one day there was a student who needed her hair done.
Mm-hmm.
Her hair was always out of place. So Miss Council, what she did her hair. That kept her from being picked on.
Oh, so
Yes,
you admired how Miss Council took care of the students and just made sure that they were loved and supported and cared for.
right. And also, Miss Council, when school ended for the summer,
Mm-hmm.
she asked me to come back out to the school because she
Mm-hmm.
knew I was dependable. So she asked me to come back out to the school to help her get her classroom organized and cleaned and everything, and I did.
Yeah.
And then she knew that, I was a smart student who loved learning.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave me some workbooks so I could continue my education during the summer break.
Yeah. Yeah, a mom, a lot of, you got a lot of people that still continue their education during the summer break, but some of us don't like to do that anymore. So I'm glad that you took pride in continue your education during the summer break and that Miss Council gave you them workbooks, okay? That was
Yes.
important for you. All right. Um,
Yeah. And so the other teacher,
mm-hmm.
this teacher was after schools were desegregated. And it was my seventh grade teacher, Mrs. Massengale. She was very concerned about my placement in the eighth grade.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to visit her that first day back after summer break,
Yeah.
she said to me, this is what she said. I tried to change it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what she was, I didn't even know what she was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went back to my class after lunch, I realized I was the only black student in the class.
You were the only black student
But
in that class.
yes, and I did not realize that when I first came to class that morning because I knew a lot of the students from the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
And so they assign you class based on your academic achievements.
Mm-hmm. And so then they had put you in that class, and so she tried to change it for you.
Yeah, she didn't want me to be the only black student in the classroom.
So she was looking out for you.
Yes, yes. She says yes, she tried to change it, but she was not successful at it. But they did say that the first black student that enrolled in
Mhm.
the that came to the middle school, they will put that person in class with me, which they did.
Oh, that's good. So you had somebody that that was like similar to you,
Right,
and had a buddy. So
right.
let's get into this desegregation, right? The Brown versus Board of Education decision
Yes.
in 1954.
Hmm.
But we know that desegregation didn't happen overnight. When did you talked about that experience that you just had. What else did that experience take you through whenever schools were desegregated?
Well, the decision to desegregate schools in North Carolina, where I lived at, was around 1970, and
Mm-hmm.
I was in the seventh grade
Mm-hmm.
around that time.
And so how difficult was it for you? How hard was this for you as a child? Did you feel like it was an imposter environment?
Yes, I did. I did feel like, an imposter
Mm-hmm.
because the year desegregation took place,
Mm-hmm.
I felt a lot of fear and anxiety because I was bused from my community to the white community. And
Mm.
also, this was my first year in middle school.
Okay.
So that was a lot of, change.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, as time went on, I developed and some pride and courage because I realized I was making history
Yeah.
and helping to change things for future generations.
Yeah, that is true.
And I was determined to succeed despite, any obstacles that was placed in my way.
Yeah. That had to been tough to, be pulled from your school. And if I'm not mistaken, you enjoyed your school that you were in. Uh,
Yeah, yes, I did. Yeah, it was. We actually, we walked to school. The school was so close
mm-hmm.
that we could walk to school.
Yeah.
We as a group of kids together will
Mm-hmm.
walk to school.
Yes. And then they pulled you from that. Then you had to get put on a bus, which you weren't
A
familiar with
bus,
that. And then
yes,
you were put in a classroom where you were the only one that looked like you, and you had to, survive that. So I could understand the anxiety piece. Probably were, sad. And it was just a lot of emotions that you had to go through at such a young age. So, but you did it and you succeeded at it as well. So
yes.
looking back at those years, what do you think today's educators and students should take away from your experience?
Well, I feel educators. I think they should be open and welcoming to students that
Mm-hmm.
are different and not be biased
Yeah.
because I valued my education and I was grateful. I was very grateful for
Mm-hmm.
teachers who were very supportive.
Yeah. And
And
what for students?
and I feel students should be open to diverse situations
Yeah.
and culturally accepting
Mm-hmm.
because during that time of desegregation, I believe some of the white parents was telling negative things to their children
Mm-hmm.
about black students coming to school when it was desegregated
Mm-hmm.
because because one day a white student in my class said to me, "You are nothing like what my parents told me."
Oh, okay.
Yes. And that was strange because my parents, whenever schools were desegregated, they didn't tell me anything.
Yeah, they were probably more trusting in the system, and I know they were very busy working, so
Right.
they just they just sent you on your way. They wanted you to get that education, and then that was good. They didn't give you any type of
No negative,
information
nothing negative. They
negative.
said nothing negative.
Yeah, so you went into class open
Right.
minded and ready to make new friends and just get your education. So that was really important. So why do you feel education is important?
Well, I think education is important because it teaches the basic skills
Mm-hmm.
you need, like reading, math, writing, and other subjects that play a major part in your success.
Mm-hmm.
Because back when my father was going to school, he had to sacrifice his education.
Yeah.
Because since he was the oldest son, he had to drop out of school and help his father on the farm
Mm-hmm.
to provide for the family. So he could not read and write, but my father, he was able to take care of us, his family, and he also was a really good businessman because he purchased land, which
Mm-hmm.
land is an investment. He owned his little side business,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a job.
Yeah.
So when I saw how my daddy worked so hard, it made me value my education,
Yeah.
and this gave me more incentive to work hard in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. You know what? I remember my granddad, and he was doing his thing as a businessman, and I appreciate that he bought the land in North Carolina, some of which you guys still own today.
Right, we still own. We make sure we pay the taxes so it won't be stolen from us.
Okay.
And but also, I need to say something else about my father. Even
Hmm.
though he dropped out of school and he didn't get an education,
Yeah.
he knew He knew how to fix. We never had to put our cars in any shop because he knew how to fix cars.
Oh, so he
He
had
could.
those technical skills.
Yes, he did. He could take an engine out of a car, fix it, and put it back into a car.
Yeah, we have students nowadays that go to school for that, and try to learn those skills, after high school. And some of them, we have some programs that are in high school that are teaching them those skills. So that's a good skill. You can make a lot of money doing that.
Yes, yes, it good. Yes, it does. And my father, I was proud of him. And students today they take education for granted. Sometimes some students, I'm not saying all students,
Mm-hmm.
but education is a privilege. If they knew back in the day that a lot of people didn't get education and they wanted to go to school, but they couldn't go to school because
Mm-hmm.
of having to sacrifice for the family.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So, we are glad that you were able to share your story with us this week and share who your favorite teachers were. And so, thank you for that.
You are quite well. I was glad to share my story.
Yeah. So, as we close today's episode, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit with this powerful story, my mother's story, Leslie Baker's journey through both segregation and desegregation reminds us that education is never just about the textbooks and the test scores. It's about dignity. It's about access. And it's about the unwavering belief that every child deserves to be seen, supported, and challenged to thrive. We're living in times when the very progress of our elders fought for is being questioned. When book bans, curriculum rollbacks, and quiet resegregation efforts threaten to erase the stories that shaped us. But stories like my mother's must be heard. They remind us of what's at stake and what we must do to continue to fight. We must continue to fight for an education system that is just, inclusive, and rooted in truth. So, all the teachers still showing up with heart and passion and purpose, you are seen, you are needed, and you are appreciated more than words can say. And to all the mothers, grandmothers, and caregivers raising the next generation, happy Mother's Day. You are the first teachers we ever know, and your lessons last a lifetime. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep thriving. This is Franchesca Thompson with everything but the lesson plan.